Thank you very much, Isha, for that introduction. Hi, everyone. I wanted to speak to you about the future of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the changing nature of this space, and what it means for many organizations and companies like yourselves for the future. I think the first thing that we must acknowledge is that this space has completely transformed in the last 18 to 24 months. What does that mean? I think the biggest transformation has been the acknowledgement that we can no longer look at this space as an optional element of our working environment. Diversity and inclusion is integral to the success of any organization. And research and continuous changes in this space have proven that companies who truly embed diversity and inclusion are more successful, more productive, and more innovative. Last year, when we went into the pandemic, many companies globally had to go into a new way of working remotely. What was really evident was companies who had already established proactively means of working flexibly were in a better position to continue running their businesses. Companies that hadn't thought of elements of flexibility were rushing around trying to make sure that the businesses can survive. We then had the global movement around racial equity. Again, companies that had started engaging on the conversation were in a better position to really elevate and create more inclusion. Companies that hadn't had to start from the beginning. So what does that all mean? I think there's a few things we need to look at when we think of the future of this space. The first is when we talk about diversity, we must acknowledge diversity is not a singular dimension. No longer can we view diversity as, just women or just people from an ethnic minority background or individuals with a disability or a different sexual orientation and so on. Every single person today who's listening to me has multiple identities to who they are. You could be a woman, a parent, someone with a disability, and so on. So the truth is, if we're going to create working environments that are truly inclusive of our diverse staff, we must start to acknowledge and understand that different things will be important to people within their workplace at different stages in their career. So, for example, and I take my example always in this, yes, I'm someone, when you look at the UK's makeup, I am someone here who would be considered a person from an ethnic minority background. But the truth is, that's not my only diversity element. I've got 2 young kids. That's a huge challenge for many parents and many working dads going into the future, where society is changing and the norms around responsibilities are changing. But not many people speak to me about that element of my diversity because they go by only what they can see. So to truly embed change, we must look at the hidden layers of diversity that each and every individual has and try to understand that to create a truly inclusive workplace. We've got inclusion. Inclusion being, that we want to create a working environment where everyone feels included. I would argue inclusion is not the end goal. It's not the only point we need to reach. We need to go beyond inclusion because being included is not enough. We are not benefiting from just having diversity and including them. To truly get the richness of diversity, we need to create an environment where people can belong. What do I mean by belonging? Belonging is not a new concept, by the way. Each and every one of us has grown up with a sense of belonging at some time. If you reflect when you were younger, you belong to your family or maybe a club at school or a sports team. But when we feel we belong, when we feel we can bring our authentic self, our true authentic self to work or to a group, we produce exceptional results. And that's where we need to get to. So we need to move beyond traditional diversity and inclusion and start to create workplaces where people can be their authentic self. Now, why is this important? Is the argument or is the view of many? I want to touch on 3 important factors. Number 1, we've got, of course, legal implications around creating fairness and equity which is important. We've got the moral case, which I hope each and every one of you get, that it's the right thing to do. Society around us has changed. Younger generations want to join companies and organizations that truly value what they believe in, the values they have. And those values are around diversity, inclusion, sustainability, all the great things that they hold very dear to themselves. But the biggest element and one of the most important areas or the reasons for embedding diversity is the business case. It is a truly business imperative to get diversity and inclusion right. Numerous studies have shown that when people have that sense of belonging, they're 3.5 times more productive. When you have diverse teams, your problem solving is better, your innovation is better, your creativity is better. So all the great things that any organization wants to establish benefit from having diversity. We know for a fact that when everyone thinks the same, patterns are not broken. We end up with the same ideas, the same solutions. We don't spot errors or discrepancies in product design or in creation of things that we're looking at. So to truly benefit and get best business results, we must start to build that inclusive work environment where people have a sense of belonging. Now, there's numerous examples, especially in the tech space, of companies that have truly benefited from creating truly diverse and inclusive working environments. One of those examples, and I want to share a few with you actually, and some examples of where companies have got it wrong as well. So there's great examples of huge companies that, like for example, one of the companies I worked for, Adidas, that truly started benefiting from really building diversity and inclusion into product design, into marketing, into how they reach diverse communities. I remember we used to have operations globally in all countries from Asia to the Middle East, to Africa, and so on. If we were going to sell products, if we were going to create products or shoes or shirts that were going to reach out to our target audiences, we needed to ensure that we had representation within the design teams of those communities. If we only created products based from our offices in the US or in Germany for, let's say, a market like India, how do we know it's going to land with the consumers in that country? How do we know that we truly are creating something that would be fashionable to the consumers and so on? So we truly started to embrace and make sure that our workforce is diverse enough, our design teams are diverse enough, and have representation of those very communities so we can design products that can truly meet their needs and actually can create success for us in those markets. Then there's examples, of course, of technology going wrong. One of the biggest examples that I remember is a big chain of gyms in the UK who designed a new software to bring on board their members. And a female doctor joined that gym. She joined the gym, she got her pass, she went to access the female changing rooms, and she found she didn't have access. She went back to the reception, asked questions, they looked at the system, and they're like, no, the access is there. She tried again, and she still found that she couldn't access the female changing room. What they discovered was that she could access the male changing rooms, not the female changing rooms, because the algorithms behind the design had made assumptions that if someone's a doctor, they will be a man. So this went out to our media, to the news, and it was hugely embarrassing for this gym chain. But more than embarrassing, it made them lose customers. They lost a lot of their customers, and they were not able to truly, profit from this new software and creating a nice new tech advancement within the gym. It was a 24-hour gym which anyone could access at any time. So it ended up having a negative impact. That could have been prevented if in the design stage, if the teams that were looking at this product were more diverse. So it's really important when we think of the benefits of diversity and inclusion, we go beyond that it's just a nice thing to have. And we start to consider the fact that it's a business imperative and it truly benefits our organization. If we flip that to the internal elements of our business, people who feel they can bring their authentic self to work will stay longer with our companies. Will as I mentioned earlier, will be more creative and all those great things. But if we're continuously having to recruit staff, it costs us money. So we want to make sure that, yes, we bring diverse talent in, but we also retain them and progress them. We have them in positions across our organization so that they can be in the decision-making seats. And why is that important? Because diversity should not only be in one part of your business, but it should be across your business in different elements. That way we can achieve true success. So hopefully you can see that diversity and inclusion is a business imperative. And actually, it's not a problem that we're trying to solve. It is truly an opportunity that we're trying to embrace. Many global companies truly understand the benefit now. And we also know that companies that have not transformed in the past, companies that have not changed to the buying, to the consumer trends and the needs of their customers are not around today. I can think of many big companies, and you can probably think of many big companies that were around 10, 15 years ago that are nowhere to be seen today. Now, many will argue that the changes in technology and consumer behavior to new online platforms resulted in them not surviving. Yes, that's true. But your future customers now, their trends are different. They're aligning to different needs. And if we do not meet those needs, I worry that we might not be successful companies in the future, or even worse, might not be around in the future. So there is huge decisions we have to make around really implementing and embedding diversity and inclusion in our organizations if we are going to be successful and if we are going to be around. Now, just the final point I want to mention, diversity and inclusion is not hard. Many people talk about great programs, investment, and huge amounts of money in trying to get diversity and inclusion right. Yes, those things help and they can advance certain things. But the biggest thing that each and every person can do is start to change the culture within an organization. It's the small things that each employee can embed in order to drive change. The small things like giving someone an opportunity in a meeting to speak up who hasn't spoken up. They're sitting next to someone different, saying hi to someone in our workplace who you've not said hi to. Those small things that create conversation, that allow people to feel like they're included in what we create and in our workplaces. Those things are the most important things. So diversity and inclusion can be championed by all of us. And we must create the cultures that we want to see in the future. And that can only be done when each and every person really brings to life diversity and inclusion. So hopefully that gives you some things to think about. And really it reiterates the importance of this topic and subject going into the future. And this is a subject that's important in every context, in every country. When I think of India, a place I hold very dear to my heart, I think of the richness of diversity within India, within that region. And that richness translated into the workplace would produce exceptional results and great companies of the future. So let's come together to create that environment that we want and to create truly diverse and inclusive organizations. Thank you.